Our next guest on the Any Given Runday podcast, an experienced jockey who won the Epsom Derby in 2020, an accountant and a horse riding pundit for RTE. And if you're thinking, he must only do a bit of running on the side. Oh, you're right. If by a bit you mean over the past few months alone, representing Ireland in the World Masters Running Championships, representing his athletic club Fethard AC to win the County 10 Mile Road Championships with an insane 53 minutes 47 second time, and coming third in the recent Selbridge 5K with a 15:03 time. Emmet McNamara, welcome to this week's episode of the Any Given Runday podcast. How are you getting on?
Brilliant, boys. Thanks a million for having me on. I'm looking forward to chatting to you there for the next few minutes.
Emmet, did you really need a horse all those years? You're quick enough yourself.
Turns out not. I think I've given myself a bit too much of a pat in the back there now. It was nice to have the horse for as many years as I did, but I've turned to running on my own 2 feet now, I suppose, really to earn a crust.
Look, obviously, those who are around horse racing and know the sport understand what it takes and the dedication it takes, the fitness it takes to make weight, to be a jockey. I suppose we can say the beatings the body will take. It can be difficult. And coming into obviously a retirement, was running always a part of that as part of the gig of maintaining your fitness, or did running become later?
Yes and no. So I suppose I started as an apprentice jockey at 17, and straight away I was kind of 5'10", kind of always struggled a little bit with my weight, always trying to be as light as I possibly could. I suppose the lighter you are, the more opportunities you have to ride horses at lighter weights, and it just kind of gives you, I suppose, a better opportunity, certainly as an apprentice, to kind of get going if you can ride horses at lighter weights. So I was always pushing myself as far as I could possibly go. I believed some type of an urban myth that you couldn't run or else you put on muscle, so you had to walk. So I walked and walked and walked the length and breadth of what felt like County Meath, trying to keep my weight down with sweatsuits on and that. And I kind of found that wasn't really doing it for me after maybe, I don't know, a few months a year. And I kind of started to slowly jog to build up a sweat, and that was how I started to maintain it for the next couple of years. And I suppose, I don't know how many years it was that I was doing that for, until I came to Ballydoyle in County Tipperary and met a guy called Niall O'Callig who said there's a run on in Clonmel. He said it's just a bit of fun and that. He said, do you fancy doing it? So he'd been used to running around with 7 and 8 layers of clothes on me, trying to sweat my brains off, and I felt like I was running loose with only a pair of shorts and a singlet on, and I kind of didn't do a half bad time. And from there, I suppose it kind of, I wouldn't say it blossomed, because I was still very much only doing it kind of on the side around my kind of racing career. And when I finished up as a jockey, I joined Fethard AC, and I suppose took it a little bit more seriously from there.
When you move from obviously being in a sport, it takes huge dedication, because be it GA, horse racing, people who are trying to be at the top level, which you were, and putting yourself to the extreme of the sport as well, transitioning out of that, was that a difficult time? Was running a benefit in that to give you something else to focus on, or did it come naturally to you?
Yeah, it really was, to be honest with you. Like, I suppose I couldn't have gone for two more different careers, really. I'd gone from being kind of a jockey, which is kind of high octane stuff, I suppose, to, becoming an accountant, really, as such, even though it's not your regular accountancy job. Like, I'm working for Coolmore Stud, which is the team of owners that I would have ridden for when I was a jockey as well. So still kind of, it's multi kind of faceted and varied, I suppose, from bloodstock and finance and that. So I'm not your regular maybe big four accountant, or I'd like to think I'm not anyway, because it's a bit of a conversation stopper, unfortunately, when you say you are. Yeah, it definitely was a help. It's nice to be able to still be competitive at something, because you're not really competitive at anything as, if you're an accountant, really, as such. You get you do your job, you come in 9 to half 5 or whatever, and you do what you're supposed to do, and people are only kind of people aren't inclined to give you a pat in the back. They're only inclined to give you a bit of a bollocking if things go wrong, I suppose, with the job I'm in now. So it's very much different. So it's nice to be able on a weekend to go off and do something that I'm still kind of competitive at in a sport and field. And I think, to be honest with you, only for it, I probably lost, because I do have that competitive streak in me, and it's nice to be able to take on your peers and have a cut at something, whether it's running or football or hurling or whatever. I suppose running is what I've chosen, so it's been brilliant. I must say, I've really enjoyed it.
This might be a silly question, so please tell me if it is. the art of a race. A lot of people come on here who've been running all their lives say, yes, they could run, but they didn't understand the race element. They didn't understand the mind games. Obviously, horse racing, there's tactics involved. You have to know the horse, you have to know the race, you have to know the people you're racing. Does that translate across, or did it take you a while to learn, okay, yeah, I haven't got the horse element, but I understand the race element. I understand when I need to push? Or is that a completely stupid question to be asking? But a lot of people say experience of racing is a
Yeah,
completely
I
different
suppose.
animal.
Yeah, I've definitely seen some crossover. I mean, with horses, you're always kind of doing everything off feel, I suppose. And for a long time, I wouldn't have ran. Like, it's only in the last couple of months that I started running with the watch and that kind of thing. I would have always really done it off feel. And then it was kind of only in the last few months when I started doing a couple of the longer races. A few of the lads were saying to me that I was racing against, will you go away and stop in such a bloody Egypt and get yourself a watch? You know what I mean? Everyone else is looking down every 2 minutes at their watch, seeing how quickly they're clicking off the Ks. And I was kind of doing it all off field because that was what I had done for my whole racing career, was basically ridden the different races that I would have participated in off completely field. So I would have felt that, and definitely I suppose you can, in a horse race, you're looking at your different competitors, you're looking at their body language of the different jockeys. You can tell which guys are holding on to a little bit and have something up their sleeve, and which guys are struggling a bit. And I suppose on the road, a lot of it is kind of time dictated, or on the track, a lot of it is time dictated from a running point of view. But in the cross country, I kind of like the fact that you can throw away the watch, or in the mountains, and you can kind of read a guy's body language and see how well or not well he's going, which is very much the case when you're a jockey. You're trying to be aware of not only the horse you're riding and seeing how much he has left in the tank, but also your competitors. And tactics does certainly play a big part, I would have said, in both disciplines.
You have a couple of IMRA wins to your name as well, but take me through, for example, just to piggyback on Eric's question there, that 10-mile road championships where you had the 53-minute time. Were you more kind of like, I want to hit this time, or like Eric said, is it like you're I thought you used the phrase, jockeying for position with the next guy who's first, second, third, and all the rest, and trying to get ahead? When you approach something like a race like that, is it just, I'm aiming for this time? If I win, I win. If I don't, I don't.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm not really big obsessive with times. I think it's just the fact that I've kind of really never really ran with a watch up until kind of more recent months. And I suppose it's probably I've 2 full years of kind of run and done in County Tipperary now with my team. So you kind of start to get to know the different heads around, and the lads
Yeah.
you're racing against, who's your competition. Whereas I suppose when I would have went to the likes of Selbridge a few weeks ago, I didn't know anyone in the different Dublin running clubs. Whereas down at the start, if you've guys from Tipperary, Mossy Bracken, Barry Hartnett, Dermot Gorman, they're your kind of main competition in a lot of the county races. So you're sussing those boys out, and you're just kind of basically hoping to beat them. You know that they're the main guys, and your time is just kind of what happens when you pass the line. But the lead up to it, you're just trying to beat the different individuals that are the guys to finish in front of, if you want to try and get a nice little medal for yourself.
The Selbridge 5K, was that a PB, the 15:03?
Would have been, yeah, it would have been. So I was told it was nice and flat, and it mightn't be a bad spot to go to. And there was a couple of decent runners up there as well. Said if you're following around in them coattails, you might get yourself a nice little time. So
And
happy to get it. Would have liked to have broken 15, I suppose, but hopefully that'll come.
that was my next question. It's like a man who doesn't feel too much about times and stuff, seeing 15:03 and just being like 3-4 seconds shy of being a sub 15 5K runner, because you're talking about near elites at that stage. That's a phenomenal time.
I don't know about elite now. There's plenty of guys trying to break 14 all the time there now, so I wouldn't call it elite, but it's nice. It'd be a nice little kind of, everyone asks your 5K time, you're kind of judged on it early. It's people who know nothing about running, and they're like, oh, your man's all right at running. Kind of, I say, all right, right, what's your 5K time? And you kind of just feel, even
Yeah,
though your best distance might be, longer, shorter, or whatever, everyone kind of seems to, in my experience, judge it off that. So if you want to crack out a nice 5K time, and the rest of it nearly doesn't matter.
yeah, it's one of those where everyone kind of relate to, because like marathons, anything can happen, the different hills, terrain, and all the rest, and different places, different times. But a 5K, everyone kind of knows what that is, to race at least one flat 5K and see pretty much where you're at.
Yeah, that's kind of it. So look, it'd be nice to get a real decent 5K time, but hopefully I can kind of, I suppose, get a nice time for all the different distances. Really, that'd be the the hope, I suppose, going forward. I just kind of tipped around in a half marathon recently with a couple of pals of mine. We were trying to raise a few quid for charity, and luckily enough, the guy that I was with was trying to break 90 minutes for the half, and he managed to do it. He raised over 20 grand for two different racehorse charities, so that was a fantastic event. But it'd be nice to race the half marathon, have a nice half marathon time, and hopefully get a nice full marathon time as well sometime maybe next year.
And so, are you leading more towards road races now or
So
cross country?
I don't know. I'm this kind of fella that kind of wants to try and do them all if I possibly can, but I know that's not possible. So I didn't I would have run obviously and trained with my club a little bit, but I'm based in Carlow now, and I still run for Fethard, which is where I work in Tipperary. But I'm not getting to train with them as much as I'd like. So I was doing kind of all my training on my own, and I actually joined up with Emmet Dunleavy, who I'm sure he's well known in the running circle. So he agreed to kind of coach me just online. So I started his program kind of about 8 weeks ago now. And he just kind of said, what do you want to do? And I just said, well, I want to get a good 5K time, a good half marathon time, a good marathon time. I want to try and win as many mountain races as I can, cross country races. He's like, you can't do them all. He said, you need to concentrate on one. But I suppose if you don't aim high, you won't maybe arrive there. So.
Well, Emmet Dunleavy has an experience deal with Eric Lawless there, so if you go in through Eric, he'd be all right with you, Emmet.
I think Emmet was just happy to see me finish races, to be honest. When it comes to you, obviously, when you go down that coaching road, the watch, the heart rate, everything becomes into it because it's all about the percentages. When you're talking about the finer margins that you're talking about, we're getting down to the seconds to get you under the 15, and particularly when you're looking at marathons and I suppose the perceived effort. How hard is because now I can't imagine a run without my watch. How hard was the transition to using this beeping thing that was telling you were dying every time you were pushing? What is it like? Do you hate it? Is it just a necessity so that you can check in on where you're at? Or how have you found the transition? Has it benefited you?
Yeah, I must say I feel like an idiot that I didn't really get involved with it a little bit earlier, to be honest with you, because it's like I was basically going out just doing, and I listened to Owen Everard on your podcast a while back, or not a while back, but I suppose in the last few weeks. I wish I'd listened to him 12 months ago when he was actually first on, because he was just saying, there's idiots out there who are going out doing a 40-minute run every single day, doing the same thing, banging their heads against the brick wall and think they're going to improve when they're actually not. And that was exactly what I was doing. I was going for 40-minute run every lunchtime and not varying it or anything. So it's been brilliant on Emmet's program to do your fast stuff fast and do your slow stuff slow, really, I suppose, as such, and get some kind of a routine going. And I've actually found that really helpful. I know I'm only doing it maybe a couple of months now, but I've actually slotted into it really nicely, and I feel a lot more confident, I suppose, at my running now as well, knowing that I'm keeping an eye on the clock and knowing that I'm in the right threshold zones, be it aerobic or lactate or whatever. And to be honest with you, I'm learning about all these things that I actually never even really knew existed. So I'm actually kind of finding it quite interesting as much as it's enjoyable as well.
That is baffling in one way to me, because I know you said you're training with your AC and stuff like that, but like I'm looking down here at some of my notes. Like last year, you were over in France, and like out of 1,700 people, you came 8th overall, and like you brought Team Ireland to 3rd of that competition. One, how's the team thing work there? And two, like, is there a certain, don't want to say, not ignorance to it, but just like freeness to just not knowing all that kind of stuff and just going out there and just running? Because like I know Emmet's going to do a great job with you, but like he's got a great base to be dealing with right now from where you're at and what you've done so far.
Yeah, hopefully. So, like, I suppose I would have always brought like a decent level of, I'd like to think I would have brought a decent level of fitness to it anyway. It's not like I was starting from a couch to 5K when I was going to Emmet. Even though I probably wasn't training right and doing the things properly, I suppose I was, riding out race horses. I was on my feet quite a bit, and that obviously in the office for the last couple of years probably wouldn't be exactly helping your fitness, but I still kept myself pretty active. But I would like, I suppose, to think that I could improve on my different times and performances with a bit of proper structured training. And I suppose in answer to your question, there was a lot of kind of freedom before. Now it feels more structured, and you're at the end of the day, if you haven't done exactly what's in the training program, you might feel a little bit of guilt or whatever, and that element of freedom is kind of gone. But I'm enjoying the structure more so than I'm not enjoying the lack of freedom, if that kind of makes sense. But I said, look, it's still early days kind of on some kind of a structure program too. But I'd have been fairly well advised as well by a couple of my good pals along the way, Louis Rice and Fethard AC and Barry Hartnett, who be one of my great pals from running as well, would have always tried to put me in the right direction. But for a good while now, they've been saying to me, like, will you just get yourself a watch and get yourself on some kind of a bloody program, stop it in Egypt. So I've done that now for the last couple of months, and it's hopefully bearing fruit.
Obviously, Emma, given you're commuting, the working long hours, you're doing a good bit of training on your own, or are you still managing to link in with people? And I ask that because obviously when you get a coach, they say iron sharpens iron. When you run with good runners, you improve. And even if you hadn't got a watch, they're the ones watching the watch, so you could always improve with them and follow them along. But if you're training on your own, is that the benefit of having a coach and the watch now? Because you have the discipline, obviously, through a career of discipline to push and know when not to push, I suppose, and to really excel those extra couple of percent.
Yeah, like I suppose I'm because when I was race riding, I would have had to spend a lot of time on my own. I suppose disciplining myself and getting weight down and that kind of thing. So I'd be a bit of a self starter anyway. So it hasn't been that difficult for me to train on my own. But I suppose just with my work kind of situation and everything, I'm living in Carlow with my partner and our little boy. We've another little baby hopefully on the way next month, and I'm commuting up to Tiff for work. So it makes it a little bit difficult, I suppose, to train with the club or different gang around. But I'm trying my best to do it when I can. And while I would like to be kind of involved a little bit more with different people and have them dragging you along, especially better runners, like as you said, iron sharpens iron. If you're training when someone's better than you, you're definitely going to get dragged along and hopefully dragged up. Hopefully that's something I can, I suppose that I can do into the future. Maybe just have a little bit of a better structure around having a kind of a team of other athletes around me that can bring out that extra couple of percent. It's not just happening just at the moment, but hopefully it will.
Up until training with Emmet, were you looking at different races? Like I've seen you done a few IMRA races, and we've so many people that have been on the podcast before saying so many great things about IMRA races. Was it literally just, oh, I'm actually free this weekend, I'll find the race to tick, or did you have structure in your race schedule over the years?
Yeah, so like I said to you, Barry Hartnett would have been a good pal of mine, and he's a good pal of mine, and he runs for Dundrum AC, and I would have ran against him in the county cross country races and road races. But every weekend that he wasn't doing one of those, he seemed to be off doing these IMRA races. And he said to me, he said, you really need to start doing these. He said, they're savage crack. And he says, you just love them. He said, great community of people. And he said to me, look, there's a qualifier for a European Championships, he says, in a few weeks in Ballyhour. That was last year. And he said, come and have a crack. So it was literally an up and down race, 15K. But when I got there, like they were the best of the best lads around us at the time, I suppose, who were all competing for a place on the Irish team going to the European Championships. And like Ballyhour was tough course as well, like big steep incline and a big drop off. And Barry was saying that he's after bringing this pal of his to a few of the other lads, and they're like, do you not like him or what that you brought him along to this, like for his first Simmer race? Like, you couldn't have picked a worse spot to introduce him. Like, you not got a nice little place with gentle rolling hills or whatever. So sure enough, anyway, I went up it was an up and down twice. So I went up the first time and coming down the first time. I can't ever remember running down a hill particularly at speed. I didn't particularly train for it, but like I absolutely hopped, cut the two knees clean off myself and had to get up, dust myself off and go again, and ended up finishing fifth. And I suppose I was just out of the places to go to the European Championships that time. And I just loved every second of it. I just loved the rough and tumble of it. And it just felt like very pure running, I suppose. And it's kind of, first lad to be able to run to the top of the hill and back down again. It's pretty simple stuff, And I really enjoyed it. So that was the only race I did in 2024, but I've tried to concentrate on it a little bit more this year. And I think I did 6 IMRA races kind of during the summertime there and the springtime. And got to go some brilliant trips with it as well. Got to go to France to the Trial de Guerdelin and wear the Irish jersey this summer, and went to Meduna for the Irish Masters then as well last week. So like it's just been it's been brilliant, and it's opened up a few doors. It's just really, really good way to spend your time running through the mountains, and time seems to fly by. It really does.
We have had people say that once you go to IMRA, you'll never go back. Obviously, you want to tackle a couple of them, but getting to the likes of Italy, I believe it was last week, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. How does that feeling of representing an Irish team in Europe feel, and how was that event?
It was brilliant, I must say. Just really, really good fun. It's an Irish Masters, so obviously by its very title, it's over 35. So it's not the real serious senior level stuff where maybe there's a bit more pressure on, people who are sponsored tend to be those ones that are under 35, and there's a bit of pressure on those guys or girls to perform for their sponsors, whereas it's very much a party carnival atmosphere at the likes of the Masters. Everyone is there to have a good time, enjoy themselves. Obviously then when the gun goes off, everyone is very, very competitive, but it was really good fun running. Brilliant, like to be able to just run up a mountain and see an Argentinian guy in front of you, Uruguayan guy behind you, and a Spanish lad to the left, French lad to the right. Like it's just, you really feel like it's a brilliant melting pot and environment to challenge yourself and just enjoy yourself. And just really, really, again, I don't know whether it's the type of people now. Do you know something? Everyone in running that I've met just seems to be really good people. As a bunch, they seem to be great people. But the mountain
Until
running,
you met us.
yeah.
The only way is up after this.
The only way is up, Emma. It gets better after us as well, by the way. But no, you are right.
The mountain running gang, in fairness, they're lovely people, like everyone in running, but there's that bit of wildness to them as well, that they're even probably a little bit more cracked, So some of those events are brilliant events, and already kind of looking forward to maybe next year. I think the European Championships, European Masters run in Transylvania and Romania. So, what other excuse are you going to have to go to the likes of that place? It's, a brilliant excuse to get on a cheap Ryanair flight and get over and enjoy the mountains there.
How do you prepare for a European Championship in terms of IMRA races? Because obviously you're in Carlow, you're nestled between a few hills down there. How is it that you prepare for it? What kind of, because when we talk about marathons, people talk about times, they talk about distances, kilometers per week, hours on the feet. How is it different when it comes to IMRA races? Particularly, I know you said it's the fun Masters, but it's still a European Championship, so you have to perform to be there. So how is the preparation for something like that?
I suppose you just try and do a little bit more stuff on trail or in the mountains or that. But I don't know, maybe the guys that are really serious about it concentrate more on the specific kind of mountain training. Whereas I suppose definitely doing Emmet's plan for the last couple of months, a lot of that would be kind of on road and on track. And he's kind of trying to improve running performance as such rather than specifically mountain running performance. So again, I get a lot of my advice on running from Barry, and he would have just said to me, look, all really good running training, he says, will serve you no matter what the discipline is. So get the good, decent running training into you. Again, do your lactate and aerobic threshold stuff properly and your easy stuff properly. And whether you're doing that on trails or on the road or on the track, you'll find your performance over all disciplines kind of improving really as such. But I would have liked to try and get a lot of my easy runs more so than my real strong stuff just in the Wicklow Mountains maybe, or trying to do that bit of easy stuff on trail where you're less likely to get injured, I suppose, as well too. If you're training every day on the mountains, you are running that risk of getting injured that you probably wouldn't be on the road or on the track. So you're trying to be a little bit clever about it, but at the same time get those miles in and get the inclines in that you need, I suppose, to be able to perform at those events.
Emma, when you're looking at obviously a career now at a desk with some running sprinkled in, headspace and trail running, because you said easy run in the mountains. Nothing about that sounds easy to road runners. But obviously when you take on a trail, it could be, it could be a 10K trail, it could have incline. If people know I'm going on an easy run, they're like, oh, it's an hour or it's a 2 hour. I'll be back, I'll be showered, I'll be in the shop at this time. When you take on a trail, it's you and the trail, probably no phone signal. What does mountain running, easy running in the hills do for you on that side of things?
I suppose it just freshens you right up. When you're going off doing an easy trail like that, you need to concentrate where you're putting your feet. So it's not the type of one where you go out and you listen to a podcast. You literally, you leave the earphones behind you and you just go out and you enjoy the run. And because I suppose the landscape is so varied and that you're constantly thinking, as I said, about where you're putting your feet or how you're going to get up, down, or whether you turn left, right, or whatever, it mightn't necessarily be the most easy trail to navigate as such. So I kind of find the time flies by, whereas when you're on the road, if you were to go out and do, a long run, an hour and 20, an hour and a half, whatever, I'd find that you need the podcast to keep you motivated, keep you going, or give someone a call, or whatever the case may be. Listen to a bit of music, you'd need that bit of stimulation. But I find in the trails, no matter how long you're up there or up in the mountains, time just seems to fly by and you're never really bored. So it's good. It's a good place to get the head cleared, I find, actually, in fairness.
Going back to what you said, the trail stuff, the downhill part. I've done a few kind of trail runs, and I'm not too bad going. Well, march up, and I'm okay in the flat, but going down, I am baby steps. Watch where I'm going, sliding every which way. Like, and because you're competing and winning some of these things, is it literally just switch off, hope for the best, step by step, or like what if anything goes through your head flying down these hills?
I don't know. I suppose I probably learned the hard way, as I said, in Ballycower the first time when I came down, because I had never really thought about running downhill. I didn't think it was going to be that difficult until I pulled myself out of a puddle with two slit knees. So yeah, I suppose, learned the first day that you have to be a little bit careful. But at the same time, it's grand to be careful if you're a couple of minutes ahead of the guy who's chasing you down. You can afford to, take a couple of those baby steps. But I remember chasing a lad earlier this year in Dublin, and he was just winging down the mountain. I was just thinking, please slow down, or the two of us are going to get killed. But there's something exhilarating about that too, and I found out afterwards, Gareth Davis was his name, and Jesus, man, I said, you were winging down there, and he's like, yeah. I said, what do you do? And he said, oh, I used to be, a big mountain bike rider or whatever. And I was thinking, Jesus, no wonder you're such a bloody lunatic, you know what I mean? So it takes a certain type, I suppose, is what I found really that day. But no, look, nobody wants to fall and get themselves hopped. I mean, I don't think anyone is that messed up in the head, but at the same time, you weigh up the glory of kind of winning against the potential hazards of getting yourself a bad hopper. And I suppose, depending on how hungry you are for the particular event that day, you'll push yourself maybe over the limit sometimes. But it's nice to come down to a couple of grazes and that and look a little hardy and, parade around afterwards and say, I beat the mountain.
And that's the second part of that question was doing a few of those. I always find the toll it takes on my body, especially for my legs, the quads afterwards, is so much more going downhill. Just that impact, bang, bang, bang. Are you the same, or is it just it's all the same to you? How you feel afterwards?
No, definitely. Like my hips as well, I found as well, they just get hammered a little bit now. So definitely would have to when I was a bit younger, I used to never do any stretching, any of that kind of stuff. But I suppose 35 now, as well as doing the mountain stuff, don't get away with that anymore. So I found had to stretch out the hips and quads and all those kind of things a lot more, especially with the mountain running. Definitely 100%. Calves mainly with the road seem to get a little bit tight with me in the Achilles, but definitely hips and quads with the mountains. So I like to think when I'm doing all the different things that they're all equally getting hammered, and hopefully nothing is going to get, either nothing or everything will get injured.
And do you do anything for that outside of running in terms of strength training, yoga, Pilates, that kind of thing? Or you're just, like we read from the intro, you've got so much going on. Do you even have time to do anything else?
I'd like to have a bit more time to probably give to the sports Pilates that actually Owen Everard would offer. I definitely going to try and get into something like that, especially as I'm getting older, because I can see 100% you can see the benefits of it, really, and just trying to stretch a little bit more. I usually do 20 minutes kind of a HIIT exercise or a stretch in the mornings or whatever, but I definitely could see the benefits to doing a little bit more of that. But you're always inclined to do an extra 20 minutes of a run than a 20-minute stretch, aren't you? And everyone is in that boat, really, aren't they? But you learn the hard way.
And wait till the new baby arrives. It's getting permission is going to be harder than doing the exercises. You won't be tacking on any 20 minutes anywhere.
I'm in the market for a running buggy. If anyone knows one going cheap on Dundee, or actually, I'd say that. I think that's the only way I'm going to get out.
If we can facilitate this deal, we have changed the direction of this podcast indefinitely. The classifieds with us. Emmet, it is Amazing to hear such great stories to be performing at something, having transitioned from one sport into another. People listening to this will be thinking, he's way ahead, he's this, he's that, he started at this foundation. But that's not necessarily true, because we all start at a certain base, and people listening might be thinking, how do I get into mountain running? What do I need to do to take on the hills? Or I wouldn't be good enough for doing that. What's your recommendation for people listening who are thinking, IMRA sounds fun, the way you've described it. I'm a little bit crazy. I'd like to give it a go.
Do you know something? I actually couldn't imagine anything that's easier to get into than mountain running. Like I mean, I suppose I've been in other sports, and there probably is barriers to entry into the likes of horse riding. You need a horse, you know what I mean? Or you need someone that
Yeah.
has a horse, or, I'm very lucky. I have a family background in horse racing, so I was given that leg up straight away. But I can 100% how people would see barriers to entry to the likes of that sport. But literally, it could not be easier. Like, the IMRA website is easily accessible, very usable, and you literally just key in your details. It's so cheap. Like, most of the runs, I think all of the runs are pretty much £7 a go. It's very much not for profit, voluntary organisation. You have, nobody's going to disgrace themselves. You have the early start times for people who want to set off that half an hour earlier, and you literally can go out, walk it, jog it. I can promise you there'll be someone there who's going tipping around at your speed, and you'll be welcomed with a smile beforehand, and a smile and a cup of tea and some cake and everything afterwards. It's really, it's like going out for a jog around the hills with members of your own family. They're just such accommodating people. I couldn't speak highly enough of them, really, in fairness.
When we look at then, when we go back into the likes of that element, obviously you're competing against people, you're eyeing up the next person, there's someone behind you, you're uphill, some are stronger up, some are stronger coming down, and then you bring that back to the road, which you've been doing for the last little while. Is it harder to now race the clock? Because particularly when you're on the track, all variables are gone, bar maybe your shoes. It's just you versus time. How do you find that transition? Is that a separate challenge that you're enjoying?
Yeah, it is actually. I would struggle, I think, to just run roads or just run cross country, or just, I really enjoy genuinely the whole kind of gamut of running. And if there was even more disciplines that I could get involved in, I would. I really enjoyed the fact that there's such a difference between the races in the spring, into the summer, into the winter, like the different terrains, the different challenges. And I suppose I kind of just jump from one end to the next. Like, I'm not at it a long, long time. This will be the third year, let's say, that I'm heading into kind of running the county races and the Munster races and running for a team. So I'm pretty much new to it. But I really enjoy the different seasons and look forward to them kind of all individually. I suppose they all have their own challenges, and I look forward to them all kind of individually, and hope I can do well in them all, obviously, as well too. And you have a lot of club members backing you up then as well, and you want to do well for them and do well for the team and that. So it's no, it's a brilliant calendar, the whole running calendar, and there's something for everyone. And if you want to do loads of different things and not get yourself bored, you definitely won't run out of races in there, that's for sure.
It sounds like when you're saying different challenges there, that you could be like some stage either drifting off to either ultra marathons or going a different route in terms of triathlons and different things. Are you the type that would see different events and people, or talking to people going, you know what, throw me hat into that, I'll give that a go?
Yeah, I don't know about the ultra marathons. I would love to do an ultra marathon, absolutely, but I just don't know about training for it. I think is the big problem. Like, to head off there for a 4 and 5 hour run in your training, I think that would take serious discipline. So I'd say I'm probably more likely to maybe do something. I wouldn't say a triathlon, because I'm not a strong swimmer, but there's definitely a couple of adventure races there with bikes and kayaks and those kind of things that would definitely appeal to me. Like, I fell into the trap of buying myself a big racing bike there at the start of the year, carbon fiber
Welcome to
frame,
the
There we
club.
go.
all works. That went into the bike shop, didn't have a clue what I was trying to buy. Just like, can I have your fastest bike? And he was like, 10 grand. I was like, all right, okay. Can I have your fifth fastest bike? So a little bit more than I was hoping to pay. But yeah, there was actually the week after France, there was the Gale Force West race, so I was planning to do that, and I was just feeling a bit sorry for myself after France with a little niggly injury, so I gave it a miss. But that's definitely something I'd hope to do in the future. I'm actually enjoying the cycling, every few weeks or whatever. I might head off for an hour or two on the bike or whatever, or when you're feeling a little niggle somewhere that you don't particularly want to go pounding the roads, it is nice to get on the bike. So it'd be nice to maybe at some stage do a couple of those duathlons or something like that, possibly. Yeah.
When you look at managing injuries and through your career, you probably have to manage a couple of injuries and particularly now, how do you stay focused, particularly when you're in the build up to big races? Sean is carrying one now. We have our fantastic four who are all training for the Dublin Marathon. One or two have carried a little niggle, but they're still being very positive. Some people, it's a disaster and everything else falls apart. How do you deal with the bumps, the bruises, pains, I suppose, particularly after some of these bigger IMRA races and European championships?
Yeah, I don't mind the kind of bumps or bangs or the the little niggly injuries. Like, I mean, you're going to get them. You're going to get them all the time. Really, they come with the territory, and I suppose I would have experienced it when I was race riding as well. But I probably wouldn't be the best patient when it's an actual injury where you have to stop for a while. Like last year, basically my foot was just giving me a bit of bother. Just my kind of big toe essentially was just after swelling right up, and I had to take a few weeks off. And I was just after kind of getting going with the road racing season, and I had to pull up. And Jesus, I was frustrated for a few weeks. It absolutely drove me crackers, and I didn't think I'd miss the running, I suppose, as much as that. But I was after starting to get competitive, after getting on a bit of a roll with the club or whatever, and just remember thinking it was torture. So grand with the bumps and bangs, but anything that you have to stop, I'm probably not the best patient. Hence, I bought the bike actually at the start of the year. One of the reasons that at least I was able to stay going in some way, shape, or form. I didn't fancy stopping full stop again.
I was going to say that the injury must have been the reason you went back in to buy that fifth fastest bike in the shop. With that said, Emmet, what's in store for you for the next 6 to 12 months? What race do you have your eye on?
So I suppose we're kind of into cross country season now, and the club I run for, Fethard AC, we're very much, I suppose, a small club, kind of only a couple of years ago. But there was a town park opened in the town, and that's kind of seen an explosion of interest in the club. Like there's only a handful of members literally when I started a couple of years ago, and we're up at kind of 200 now. Fintan Rice, Louis Rice, John Hurley, Tony, they've been excellent in driving the club forward, and we're cross country champions in Tipperary on the road, and obviously cross country. So it'd be nice to retain that title for the club this year. So we'll be giving the cross country season our full attention. So I think mine is on in a couple of weeks' time, and definitely then the Munster and the different tip races. And I might go up to the Autumn Open as well there. I got taste for the Dublin Air there a few weeks ago, so I might go up and see what's going on there. But I have a funny feeling I'll have my arse handed to me now by a couple of lads who are pretty handy up there.
Coming off European Championships, obviously fitness levels isn't a problem. How do you refine yourself between the season, without giving the game away to the competitors who are all going to listen to us after this? But refine yourself now for cross country. How do you manage that?
I tell you the truth, I don't know. I'll be kind of led a little bit by the likes of Emmet. As I said, my training probably up until now was very much I go for my runs, and there wouldn't be a huge pile of structure to it. And if I fancied doing a bit of cross country running, I'd do my run in the field. If I fancied running on the roads, I'd go for a run on the roads or trails. Or it was very much kind of a mix and match approach. But I suppose the likes of Emmet now very much has me on a kind of a program where I'm building up the kind of cross country training and cross country specific training. So I'll be kind of led a little bit by him, but definitely you can see that it's a little bit different, I suppose, to the road training, just the way it's structured with hills, and obviously doing a little bit more, literally on a cross country terrain and surface as well. So I'd imagine that'll make up a big part of it. But I'd love to give you these insights from years of knowledge in sports science that I've been running, but unfortunately, I don't have them. You know a lot more about it than me, but I'm looking forward to finding out. I hope.
But obviously the different terrain, the hammies are working a bit hard as it gets wetter and we see a bit more rainfall. The muscles will be working a bit harder on the slippier surfaces and stuff. It's going to be a big change for you having someone else do the thinking. Does that remove pressure that someone else is doing the thinking? Is it nice to just wake up and go, right, this week, this, brilliant, let's just get it done?
Yeah, definitely. And that was a big part of the reason that I wanted to try and get a coach or some kind of a structure in place, because I didn't know what I was doing really, to be honest with you, and I had no kind of direction. Whereas it's brilliant to just have that, I suppose, the accountability of a coach, and know that you have to do whatever is kind of prescribed for you for that day or that week. And so I'm enjoying just kind of putting that pressure onto someone else to get me a program. Well, I can't imagine how Emmet Dunleavy's feeling too much pressure about Emmet McNamara's running career. He's got a couple of more high profile guys and girls on his books than me. So
well, you should have seen him when he was training me. He was under severe pressure. I could have been the first client to die doing a 10K.
It made him earn his money.
But it is. But does it give you confidence? People always talk about the start line confidence when you look around and you're looking at other athletes and you know them, you know what they're about. Knowing that you've this time put the structure in, you've got the watch, you've got the gizmos, you've got the gadgets, you've got the coach, and now you're looking around at the start line going, we have done a lot of work to get to this point. Does that give you a little bit more confidence going into this season for what you hope to achieve? Because everything is a hope. We don't know what a race will bring, of course, but do you have that extra bit of confidence behind you now and that, like, okay, let's see what else we can do?
Definitely 100%. And I suppose, like, kind of coming from my horse racing background as well, you know, I suppose I worked for some of the best trainers in the industry, thank God. And I was always, you know, pretty fit. I used to ride out every single morning. I studied the races beforehand. I knew a lot of the jockeys, you know, and the way they rode, whatever. So I was always confident when I was legged up on a horse that I knew exactly what I was doing. And when I went down to the start, I thought, look, I'm as good as anyone down here. Hopefully it'll work out for me, I suppose, as such, you know. Whereas with the running, I never really had that confidence. I was always kind of felt like a bit of an imposter, like, you know what I mean? Saying, geez, there's surely 10 better lads than me here. And, you know, a lot of the time, I suppose there would be 10 better lads than you there, but at least you feel that you've, when you're starting to do a bit of proper training, that you've some kind of a structure in place. And if you get beat or you win or you finish wherever, at least you kind of feel that you're giving it your best shot, really, now, do you know, and that there won't be any regrets and that you're not just kind of messing about. You're taking it a bit more seriously and you're giving yourself the best chance to do it as well as you can, because it'll probably, like, I'm 35 now, so I said it'll be, you know, a shortish enough kind of career for me, probably from the point of view of, you know, I'm not probably going to be getting much better from the next couple of years on. So it'd be nice to just get a few medals in the bag and try and get a few decent times that I can be proud of in a few years' time, looking back when the legs start to get a bit more weary and I'm getting a bit older again.
You've had a fantastic career in the horse race, and obviously it's been an excellent one. When you're seeing some of these younger guys, you ever wonder, if I was 22 and I was into this, do you ever have that wonder? Does that ever cross your mind? Like, I watched the FA Cup final and go, I should have been there. Even when I'm on my couch shoving pizza into my face going, that could have been me. But when you look at these younger guys and you're competing against them as a 35-year-old now and competing, let's say, and there's always someone better, there's always someone faster. But do you ever have that thought of, what if?
Do you know, so even if you thought it, you couldn't say it. You don't want to be that lad in the pub saying, I could have done this or I could have done that, if only this or if only that. So look,
you haven't had enough points with Eric in the pair. I tell you, he tells me that all the time.
You watch.
No, look,
Emma, I hope your next start line you whisper that to one of the young lads, if I was younger.
I probably do wish that maybe I'd given it a little bit more of a kick when I was a bit younger, but at the same time, like, I mean, when I was race riding, I would have, you know, always tried to keep my weight very, very low. I was probably always operating at kind of a stone below my natural body weight. And realistically, I don't know when I was doing that, would I have been able to be a decent runner, you know, or able to fulfill my full potential while I was a jockey as well. And to be honest with you, I had a fantastic career as a jockey, and I don't regret for one second giving that 110%. And I suppose I've been very lucky to just kind of fall into the running, meet a lot of nice people, and, you know, I'm lucky enough to be competitive in a lot of the races that I'm running in as well. So I'm really just enjoying it for what it is. You know what I mean? I don't have any regrets that I didn't go and represent Ireland under 18 or anything like that. I'm over it.
Speaking of the weight there, Emma, I know people going towards marathon training now are thinking, oh, maybe I should have dropped 3-4 kilo before that. And we've had people in the podcast going, weight doesn't really matter too much in terms of you need to just fuel yourself performance. Does that ever cross your, because of being a jockey, I'm assuming there's so much that goes into getting your weight and stuff down. Does that ever come into play now for you and your training and your nutrition or anything like that? Or is it just, I'm just going out to enjoying it and whatever Emmet gives me, he gives me?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, that's very much it. Like, I mean, I suppose I would have battled fairly hard with scales, as I said, for years, and would have watched everything that I ate, would have weighed myself every day, if not a few times a day. And I swore when I finished race riding that I was going to fired the scales out the window, and that's actually what I've done, to be honest. I couldn't tell you what weight I am. I don't care what weight I am. And as a result, I kind of have a lot better relationship really with food and that. And like it kind of does play with your head a little bit when you are a jockey. You know, you never really know if you actually are truly hungry or not, if your head is playing mind games with you and that. So I try to fuel myself as best as I possibly can, eat decent food, and you know, I'd like to think I do that pretty well, but I don't ever concentrate on what weight I am or what weight I should be or anything anymore. Now, I did that for long enough, so I'm very happy to say that particular struggle is in the past.
Is it nice? I suppose again we talk about a great career and the dedication 110. Is it nice to transition to a sport that allows you to eat like a trooper most days on a long run? Is it a nice feeling now? And as you talked about that relationship with food and the scales.
Yeah, it is actually, you know, and it's actually it's weird. Like I see guys there now, like even when I went to Italy last week, there's a guy who runs in Limerick, John Kinsella is his name. He's kind of runs over 45 now, but he literally didn't start running till he was 35. But like he's done all the 6 major marathons under 2:30, and like he's a
Wow.
proper serious runner. So he's a good inspiration, I suppose, for the likes of me, who's only, you know, probably starting it in kind of 33, 34 as well. But like to see him like guzzling down all these carbs like the morning of the race and that kind of thing, and you're thinking, Jesus, like these fellas are loading up. I suppose I gave so long exercising and race riding on an empty stomach that I still probably haven't transitioned to the whole
Yeah.
fuel and carb
Yeah.
loading. And like I wouldn't be able to run on a stomach full of carbs. Like I don't think I'm at that point yet, and nor do I particularly want to be. I don't want to be going on stuffing myself really as such, but maybe if I ever do those ultras that you're talking about or something, I'll have no choice but to just load up. I enjoy kind of running on a semi-empty stomach, to be honest with you. It makes me just feel a bit lighter, and I don't know, it works for me anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say those ultras.
Yeah.
Guzzling the Coke and everything during them.
But the adaptation from you living your life over so many years, doing what you were doing, most times probably even racing on pretty much an empty stomach as well to make weight in the weigh room, that's not going to change for you. You've spent so many years, I suppose, training the body to function the way you need it to. It's going to be very difficult to change that back.
Yeah, like those kind of old habits really die hard, really, as such. You know, I'd say it's only in the last couple of months that I've started to eat breakfast, really, because just never would have done it. I'd have just woken up every single morning with weight to lose and would have taken it off, gone racing, and, you know, had something to eat that night and started the whole process the following day. So it's taken a little while to, I suppose, maybe adapt to the new reality for me, you know, but it's good. It's like I'm just eating like a normal person now, really, whereas it was pretty abnormal for a long time, you know. But I suppose a lot of jockeys had it worse than me as well too. You know what I mean? Some guys are cutting serious weight, and fair play to them. It's a life of sacrifice. But if you're doing well, it's worth it as well. It's a very rewarding career too. You know.
I can imagine though you're still cutting a lot. I don't know too much about horse racing, but 5'10" seems big for a jockey, no?
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah, so I suppose I would have. That was probably the root of
That's
my
the crux
problems,
of the
really.
problem.
Unfortunately, yeah. So
Yeah.
if I was a little midget, I'd have been. Maybe I still would. I wouldn't be running if I was a little midget. Hopefully, I would have. I'd
You'd
like to
fly
think
down
I'd
the
have still
hills
been a
faster.
jockey. Yeah, maybe so. Yeah. There was a Mexican guy won boat races on the Friday and Sunday in Italy last week. I'd say he was about 4 foot, but he was just bloody gone. Couldn't catch it.
It's so mad when you see different sports. Like, oh, I wish I was bigger for this, and then you're in this. Oh, I wish I was smaller for this. We just can't get the right balance.
No, it's impossible. But yeah, they came in all shapes and sizes. Or that's what I seem to see in running. You get big, tall guys that are just seem to have strides that go on forever, and you're like, geez, I just can't catch them. They're too big, and that's my excuse for not being able to catch them. She's just too tall. I can't catch them. But then you've no excuse when the little small person that's just relentless, that just seems to constantly drag away from you. So.
Yeah.
From what I can gather from the time I've been in it, good runners seem to come in all shapes and sizes, really.
Yeah, that's pretty much me and Eric all the time. When he wins a race, Ashley, you're 4 or 5 inches taller than me now. When I beat him in a race, yeah, well, you're 10 kilo lighter than me, and that's just the back and forth all the time of it.
I always have an excuse, Emma. That's the one thing we need to get clear here. When you look at, obviously, we're looking at the cross country. We do a lot of talking, a lot of people, and we're building up to the Dublin Marathon now. You've mentioned you'd like to go for a half marathon time, a marathon time. Is there any real pull to the marathon, or is it just, everyone's talking about it? I'd like to do it. I'd like to, like your friend you said from Limerick, who's doing the 6 majors under 230. Is that something that's like, could I do that? Is that a goal, or is it just let's see if we can get up to a marathon and see what happens?
Yeah, I've raced him like maybe 4 times now over different distances in the mountains and that, and he always just seems to have that kind of couple of minutes on me, unfortunately now. So if he's breaking 230, I'd probably be doing well to break it, you know. But at the same time, there's different markers, whether it's at my level, I suppose, like, you know, which is relatively okay, but not elite. Like, you're always hoping that you might break a 15-minute 5K, or that you might, you know, break 110 for the half or 230 for the marathon. So the likes of those are definitely targets further down the line. I was going to do the Great Limerick Run actually this year, the half, and I ended up getting sick the week of it and had to trot back to the 10K. But I remember at that time thinking that I'll do the half in Limerick and I'll do the full in Dublin. Then when I didn't do the half, I said, oh, look, I'll forget about the full in Dublin. But definitely, I think maybe once the cross country season is out of the way, I'd like to do a decent half or two maybe next spring, and maybe look at doing a full marathon next summer. No, I think if you're a runner and you're not a sprinter or anything like that, if you're a 5K 10K person, you know, everyone's asking you, are you going to do a marathon? I think you kind of have to. It's nearly just a rite of passage, isn't it? That you have to give it a go anyway, really, you know.
You have to do it faster than all of us as well. Otherwise, we know your 5K time wasn't worth a shit, Emma. You can run 15 minutes all you want.
I somehow think you'd be all right, Emma.
A DNF in a marathon, and you will not hear the end of it from me and Sean, Emmett. But it is great to have goals. There are so many, and you have mentioned Fethard AC has grown up to 200. There has been a big shift, no different to you, coming into running in the last 3 years. A lot of people from COVID into post-COVIDs, running clubs, coffee clubs, athletics clubs are really growing from strength to strength. Is it good to see? Do you see it growing more? And is there anything missing that people are missing at the minute? Is there anything more we can be doing to get more people involved in the sport?
I don't know. I don't want to sound like an outlet, but like, I remember like for years it just felt like you had to go to the pub to meet people or meet your pals or whatever. But it does definitely feel like, you know, I don't play it now, but everyone seems to be going playing paddle, or everyone is involved in running, or, you know, everyone seems to be getting involved in a sporting venture rather than, you know, meeting where they're just going to sit down and chill out and watch a movie or go to the pub or knock around and not do a whole pile. There seems to be a big kind of, I don't know whether it's just kind of a fitness craze or what it is, or some kind of a health buzz, but it's brilliant that everyone is on it, or certainly a big proportion of the population are on it. It can only be for the betterment of everyone, and I suppose the country at large, if everyone kind of keeps on it. I don't know what more you can do to entice people into running. It's so accessible. You literally just need to throw on a pair of runners, and like, there's so many runs on around the country, and they're so well advertised. So many of them are for such good causes. Like, it's just easy. It's really easy to get into, and I think once you start doing it, it's very easy to get bitten by the bug. And, you know, even though you mightn't win the race, for argument's sake, if there's, you know, a few hundred people taking part, what's great about running is, you know, you're first over 65, or you're first over 55, or, you know, your first female, your first female home, you're beating your 5K time, 10K time, you know, 10-mile time from last week or last year or whatever. There's all these little goals that people can achieve within a field of 500 people. It's not just about the person who finishes first out of 500. So I think for that reason, I can't think of too many other sports that are not only, as I said, just accessible, but you can get as much enjoyment out of, and you can compete in all these, you know, little micro events almost, you know, as well as the big event.
For me, I always say, if you want to be convinced about going for a run, stand at the finish line at anything, a 5K, a marathon, it doesn't matter, and watch individual elation, some despair, but individual elation through 6 hours. You'll see the winner come through, you'll see the first, the second, the third, all the way to people beating those minutes that they took off their time. And it's just amazing to watch so many people on individual journeys. And that's one thing that bit me and Sean as well, is just the roller coaster of emotion through a 5K, through a 10K, through a marathon. And it's everyone who stood with us at the finish line always says, oh, I'd love to do that next year. And then, okay, they realize they have to get started, they have to get the shoes, but it's taking that first step that's always the hardest. And the more clubs like Fethard and other people like yourself, and hopefully this podcast will encourage people to get out there and try find their local runs and see if they can beat you when they're 35.
Yeah, no, but like, I suppose as well, like, at our level, like, we're just kind of amateur runners doing it for the fun of it. It's different at the elite level, where I'm sure it's a little bit more cutthroat, and as I said, the sponsorship and big money involved, and you mightn't necessarily be best pals with the guy you're running against in the 100 meters final at the Olympics, or the 5K, or the 5K at the Olympics, or the marathon at the Olympics, or the European Championships. But like, at an amateur level, like, everyone is so delighted for everyone else taking part when they do well. It's not that cutthroat type of environment. It's just everyone is out there to just have a good time and try and do as well as they possibly can, and everyone is delighted for each other when they do well.
It's been great having you on the podcast for the last hour, but I just want to ask one last question on, you talk about people enjoying racing, getting into races. Apart from that first IMRA race where it seemed pretty difficult to do going up and down those hills, is there any races that stand out to mind towards you? It could be in IMRA or cross country or different road races that you've done over the last couple of years that you would recommend people go down and try out that you may not hear much about? For example, that Selbridge 5K, I've done that a couple of times myself. There's a great atmosphere down there. I absolutely love it. But maybe there's more down in your neck of the woods. Is there any races that stand out?
I suppose for me, now I'm sure it's very well known. It certainly is very well known. There's a couple of thousand people in it this year, but there's a race in aid of Milford Hospice, 10K, that's on every single year in Limerick. And I suppose, unfortunately, I lost my mum earlier this year to cancer, but it was only a couple of weeks later the Milford race was on, and we were lucky enough to raise a lot of money for it at the time. But I just would say that the standard of care she got in there was absolutely unbelievable, and it's a horrible disease that an awful lot of people are affected by, unfortunately. And if anyone can get down and support that Milford Hospice 10K into next year, it's great fun. And it's just for one of the most fantastic causes I think I've ever raised money for. Anyway, it was really, really good. So I suppose the Milford Hospice 10K will probably have placed in my heart for a long time to come. But look, there's a whole calendar of events there, and all I would say is get yourself out to whichever one is local to you, and don't have any fears. You won't be last home, I can promise you that. And have a go, and just go out and enjoy it, and get on the path, because once you start, it's difficult enough to get off the roller coaster.
Absolutely. And on that note, thank you very much for coming on to the podcast. And that is it for this week's episode of the Any Given Runday podcast with myself, Emmet, and Eric. Take care.